Okay, Black season. Okay, Black Mirror has a new season, season 7. And I haven't watched all of it. I've watched 2 episodes so far, and I'm going to be kind of jumping around and watching episodes that kind of catch my interest based on the synopsis that's explained in the title. So, of course, I watched USS Callister into Infinity first because I really liked the previous episode about that story and I wanted to see how it continued. And this was like feature length movie kind of material. This was an hour and a half long. And this video is unscripted at all. So I'm just going to be rambling and telling my impressions of it. Now, this was great. This ship is in this greater universe, but they're untagged. They're not part of the real system. They are trying to survive without resources against 30 million other users. And they're just kind of finding players, stealing credits, paying for fuel, paying for ammunition, paying for the ability to hyperspace jump, things like that. And it's a big struggle. And they've already lost off camera someone on their crew. But actually, wait, no, they lost that person in the previous season. So they've got the people they moved over with from the previous season. But it's hard. And when they encounter other players, the players think it's a game. For these people, it's real. If the other player gets shot, they'll just, disintegrate and then their avatar is gone and they can just respawn into the game right away if they want to. But if our main characters get shot, they bleed and they might actually die and they won't exist anymore. So the whole premise is they've got to find a way to survive in this universe where everything's against them. And they're slowly becoming known as these untagged players who might have hacked into the game. So the game administration is trying to find who they are and stop them because it might generate bad press for this game. And we learn more about the backstory of how the game was created, how the evil character, last season's baddie, became the baddie that he was, and started off maybe as more of a nice guy, although shy and introverted and really only interested in creating this game. But the real bad guy turns out to be the CEO, and he has given access to this digital DNA scanner that can copy a replica of yourself into these virtual worlds. And it has all of your memories and looks like you, and that can be really abused. So this technology was banned before it even got launched. But that's what they used to change this creator into a kind of avatar of himself. And he's been in there for centuries at the heart of the game, creating this infinite universe, creating worlds by hand. That's all he does. No sleeping, nothing. He just stays in his garage with his primitive technology, and he creates these worlds and expands this universe. And he's lonely. And our heroes have to try to find their way into the heart of the universe so they can get out into a bubble universe without all of the laws and limitations and rules of this current universe, plus no other users who are hunting them down or trying to kill them. So it's a pretty good episode. It's really good. And it's long, but it develops the characters quite well. It really makes the CEO smarmy and oily. And I like that actor. I've seen him in a lot of other things like Westworld, for example. Really, really good at playing bad, if that makes any sense. So all in all, U.S. Callister into Infinity is a very good episode. I thought the ending was a bit of a cop-out. I don't want to spoil it, but I think it kind of broke the rules of what's possible for what they've established in the universe itself. But it does keep it open for a third iteration of this story. So I'll watch a third if they make it. If they stop here, it's fine. But I thought, the very ending, the decision they made with the story, how to kind of move them to safety, was a little bit of a cop-out in a way. And it kind of makes things, I think, for the crew of the ship, extremely boring. And if you watch it for yourself, you'll see what I mean. I won't spoil anything about it. Now, the only other episode I've seen so far, I skipped ahead to an episode called Bête Noire, Black Beast. And I thought it was very interesting. And it reminded me of a short story by George R. R. Martin called Unsound Variations, where a young person in a chess club was bullied by his teammates, and because he lost the game, they lost the tournament they were in. And they blamed him for it, and they bullied him over it. And each of them went on to their own successful lives, kind of leaving him behind. But he was hurt by this. He was unsatisfied by this all of his life. And he developed technology where he could go back to earlier points in his life. He would die in this timeline, but his consciousness would go back to an earlier point in an alternate Earth and carry on from that point in his younger body with all of his knowledge that he acquired in the previous iteration of his life. And that's George R. R. Martin's idea of time travel. You can't physically time travel, and you can't go back and change your own past, but you can alter events, creating divergent timelines. And that's kind of what George R. R. Martin feels time travel should be like. So your consciousness goes back to an alternate younger version of yourself, and then you can start to change things from that point with limitations. So he uses his knowledge of each of his former friends and teammates' lives to destroy their futures. He invents what they invent before they do. He achieves what they achieve before they do. So none of them progress anywhere, and their lives are very unsatisfying. And then he meets them, and he reveals all of this to them, and he challenges them to chess matches, and he forces them to play the pieces and the positions he was playing in the game that he lost. And they can't win. There's no way to win. He was in a game that he couldn't win. There was no way to win it. So it's unfair how they treated him. And now their lives are basically ruined because he's taken away all of their glory, and he's achieved all of their glory instead. And he's quite smug and satisfied with himself. But they are not repentant. And they say, we were young, we were kids. Kids don't know anything. You can't hold us responsible for what we did back then when we weren't emotionally mature, when our brains weren't even fully developed. What we did was wrong, of course, but that was what we did then. And we've changed, we've grown, we've learned. And younger people are immature. They do these kind of things, and it's wrong, and they make mistakes like this. So he's hurt that they are unrepentant. So he kills himself, which means he sends himself back to a younger version of himself in another timeline. So in their timeline, he's dead. But that means that their futures are open again, and anything they'd already achieved, they can no longer achieve because he's done it. But anything they might achieve from here on out is still possible. And that means they've got opportunities and chances, and the future becomes more hopeful now. So this episode, Bête Noire, reminded me of Unsound Variations, because this young woman who was bullied in high school unfairly by all of her classmates and had a terrible life, develops a type of technology that lets her alter things so that she can create the world that she wants. And she can't undo the past, but she can change the present, and she can get her type of revenge on the people who wronged her in the past. And she can hurt them by stripping away everything that they love, everything that they value, and making the whole world turn against them. And it drives them to take their own lives. And that's very similar to the plot of Unsound Variations by George R. R. Martin. This woman, I guess she's gone through various classmates, and we meet our protagonist who works in this food company, and this woman who developed the technology joins this food company, but for some reason, even though she doesn't seem to have the past and the experience and the qualifications to work here, somehow she brilliantly does, and things start going wrong at work for our protagonist, and it's like she's being, gaslit by people around her, but at the same time, it's like a Mandela effect where the things she remembers are not the reality as it actually is. So those are all very interesting and sometimes kind of terrifying and disturbing. And then she slowly learns what's going on and tries to fix it. But how can you stop someone who's virtually a god? I won't spoil the ending, but I think it ended in a very satisfying way. I was really happy with Bête Noire. So that's the second one I watched. Now, I haven't watched Eulogy. I haven't watched Plaything. I haven't watched Hotel Reverie. I haven't watched Common People. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 episodes. Is that right? 1, 2, 3, 4 episodes that I can watch. One is over an hour, but the rest are all under an hour. So it's probably about 3.5 to 4 hours of viewing. So I might binge them all today. But right now I'll say Black Mirror Season 7 is worth watching. USS Callister into Infinity was very satisfying, and I hope there's another part because the ending was a bit of a cop-out. And then Bête Noire was very, very nice. A very nice little standalone episode. That's exactly the way technology, not plausible technology, but technology, can threaten people's lives and can be misused. So I think check them out. If you liked USS Callister into Infinity, if you liked Bête Noire, let me know. And let me know what you think of Season 7 overall. Which episode of this season do you think was the best? Do you think this season stacks up well against the previous ones? Anyway, thank you for watching. See you next time.